Welcome to meeting number 22 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, Christmas version. We welcome back our colleagues, friends from Canada Post, continue our Canada Post study. We will start, Mr. Edinger. I understand you have an opening statement. The floor is yours. And again, welcome back. It's nice to have you with us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to the committee members as well. Merci de nous recevoir. By my colleagues, Alexandra Brisson, who's our Chief Operating Officer, and Rendella El-Haj, who's our Chief Financial Officer. We're very pleased to be here. We value this important conversation and discussion. I'll start with an update on our negotiations. As we announced last month, Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers have signed agreements in principle. We are now working hard with the union to finalize the wording of these agreements, and both parties have agreed not to disclose details of what they contain until they're finalized. These agreements come after more than 2 challenging years at the bargaining table, and I know how difficult this period has been on those who rely on Canada Post. Our customers both need and deserve reliable service from us. I look forward to rebuilding our business and restoring their trust as soon as possible. Which brings us to why we are here today. Last month, we submitted our proposed transformation plan to Minister Lightbound. It is in line with his direction, which was based on the recommendations from the Industrial Inquiry Commission. Nous proposons un plan équilibré serving the modern postal needs of Canadians while returning us to financial self-sustainability. It also includes revenue growth, largely by growing our e-commerce parcel business. As our plan is still under review by the Minister, I can't get into details today, but I'll briefly run through some of the key measures it contains, beginning with community mailboxes. More than 3/4 of Canadian households already receive their mail through some form of centralized delivery. By converting more households to community mailboxes, we can provide a consistent level of service to Canadians while also achieving significant cost savings. A new offrande de mesures d'aide delivery accommodation program ensures that people with functional limitations can access their deliveries. It's easy to request, and we'll make sure that customers know it's there for them if they need it. Next, modernizing our post office network. Let me start by saying that we will protect postal services in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities, period. The Minister was clear this was essential, and we share this priority 100%. Modernizing our network will be about matching it to better serve how Canadians use the post office today. And to ensure we get it right, our approach will be highly localized. Il n'y aura pas de solution toute faite. A little different, and we won't force a cookie-cutter approach across the board. The next measure is updating our service standards for letter mail. This will give us a couple more days to deliver letters across the country. And that means we can move mail across Canada using more ground transportation, which amounts to major savings for us and reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. To be clear, this does not affect parcels or direct mail. It's for letter mail only. And we will, of course, continue to offer faster delivery options for urgent letter mail items. Together, these measures will better align our operations with the current postal needs of the country. Nous allons agir de façon réfléchie with municipalities and other local stakeholders. We'll also work, of course, with our unions on the changes that affect our people. But we need to be a leaner workforce going forward, and we'll be able to reduce our size primarily through attrition, given that we have an aging workforce. But we will still have lots of good jobs with good benefits to offer Canadians. Our plan is also about generating revenue growth. Notre plan prévoit aussi de générer especially parcels and expand into new revenue streams. We'll look at a new letter mail pricing strategy. We'll invest in continuous improvement of our operations, and we'll fully leverage the investments we've already made to increase our service capacity and enhance our IT capabilities, which is the absolute backbone behind e-commerce and delivery logistics. In closing, we know that our financial situation is unacceptable and cannot continue, but there are practical measures we can take to fix it. Our plan will return our organization to its mandate to serve all Canadians in a financially self-sustaining manner. And it ensures Canada Post will remain a vital infrastructure. We look forward to sharing the details of the plan as soon as we're able to. In the meantime, I welcome today's discussion and look forward to your questions. Thank you et merci.
Thank you very much. We'll start 6 minutes rounds with Mrs. Block.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Mr. Ettinger, and to your colleagues. We are also looking forward to this conversation with you. It's taken a while for us to be able to get you here and to be able to complete yet another study on Canada Post. At your appearance here at committee during our last study, you advised committee members that the government had not approved your strategic plan for a number of years. I think it was 5 years at the time, between 2019 and 2024. As you noted, this past September, the minister made a number of announcements, including a deadline for Canada Post to submit a plan to the department. You referenced that. Has the minister given you any indication, given that he's had the plan for over a month now, what the deadline is for when you can expect his decision on your plan?
Thank you for that question. Appreciate it. We submitted the plan, the transformation plan, I guess people refer to it as the 45-day plan, back on November 7th. It was based on our own planning as well as shaping it around the announcement that he made on September 25th, which we welcome. These are things that we've been talking about publicly for a couple of years in our annual public meetings or in media releases or in our annual reports. So we appreciate that the government is looking at those options to enable us to transform this company going forward. Our plan, we're very confident that our plan and the basic thrust of that plan is to create a Canada Post that is better than it is today and more focused on where Canadians' needs are today. That's changed a lot. So there aren't any big surprises in the plan from what we've been talking about openly and publicly. CMBs, postal refreshment and modernization, pricing strategy, service charter changes around letter mail only. So that is the main thing. But we have not heard back from the minister's office at this point. They are reviewing it, but I have not heard any timelines at this point.
Thank you for that. Can you tell me, is anything in the plan that you've submitted, was it already in past strategic plans that you submitted to the government that weren't approved?
Yeah, and to that same point that I mentioned, a lot of the solutions are similar to what we've been looking at for some time. That's why I said there aren't really any surprises in this. It's the same things. And as I said earlier, there are practical things we can do to get our house in order to make us more competitive. If you look at letter mail, of course, we all know it's declining at a rapid rate. And our whole system was built around letter mail. Parcels is also very challenging. We're up against the very best companies in the world who are very agile. So the solutions will not surprise you, but there's more detail in there than we've maybe put out there in the past.
Okay, thank you very much. I just have really limited time, and there are some other questions that I do want to get to. According to its Q3 report, at the end of this month, Canada Post will run out of the $1 billion loan the government provided to you. Last week, officials told us they have been in discussions with Canada Post about approving an additional loan. How much funding is being discussed for this additional loan?
Well, we're in discussions with the government, as we have been frequently over the last year or two. Our CFO, Rendella, has been heavily involved in those discussions, so I'm going to pass that question over to Rendella to respond.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for the question. Mr. Chair, it is important, and you're absolutely correct, that we ran out of the cash injection kind of this month. We've exhausted that, and that was very important for us to be able to maintain operations. The discussion that we're having with the Minister's office at this point in time are not yet finalized, and we're working through the details to ensure that we have sufficient funding to maintain operation and service to Canadians until the transformation plan is approved and endorsed in due course. That will alleviate, obviously, additional funding around kind of investing in the future of Canada Post.
Has the government indicated when a decision might be made on whether they will approve an additional loan?
We are in constant discussions with the Minister's office on that. We don't have a timeline yet of when that decision will happen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Given that there was no funding in the supplementary estimates, has the government told you that you will have to wait for the next cycle of estimates in order to receive approved funding?
So those discussions are happening at this point in time. What we have at our disposal is credit facilities that we were able to secure after the approval of the corporate plan last year. So we've reported in our annual report as well as our Q3 financial report that we have close to $595 million of credit facilities that we are hoping that we can utilize until that decision is made and that timing is better known.
Are you still expected to repay the $1 billion loan you've been given that you are seeking additional funding?
At this point in time, the MOU is very clear that the cash injection is repayable, as well as according to the MOU, there is a deadline of December 2026 when that will be revisited by the Minister of Finance. At that point in time, a determination will be made whether new terms will be kind of discussed and negotiated. Sorry, I'm cut off.
Thanks very much. We'll go to Ms. Suds, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you all for being here with us today. So as we've heard, as we undertook this study, and as Canadians know, Canada Post is certainly in deep financial difficulty. And without real reform, the future of this public service and the jobs that depend on it will be at risk. Postal workers keep our communities connected in many ways, day in and day out, and they keep the corporation strong, and keeping the corporation, strong and sustainable is certainly front and center as we think about ensuring that they can continue to serve Canadians. So with that in mind, and Canada Post being a Crown corporation with a mandate to serve all Canadians, why do you believe that this mandate is still relevant in today's digital economy?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. In terms of the e-commerce business around parcels, which is where we're focused on for growth, and that market will double over the next 10 years. It's a very high growth market. It is a digital market. We've recently updated our IT infrastructure, and when you order something online to the point that you receive it, it's all digital. So we feel very good about our ability to reshape the company based on the strategies that we have with the ones that we've talked about already today, but also with the digital capabilities that we now have that will enable us to make the customer experience even better for Canadians. And, you know, you're always looking for ways, and we are, to make it easier to navigate our websites and our programs. So we're very pleased with how that has gone. And so there's a lot of digital stuff going behind the scenes that powers this whole company going forward, and we're very pleased with where we are on that.
That's great to hear. And so on that same theme or in that same vein, we often talk about or think about Canada Post as being vital national infrastructure. And so in that context, how does that shape your future direction or your transformation plan?
Well, we have the foremost network in Canada. We go everywhere, literally every day. Our infrastructure is an advantage for us. We want to be more efficient in that infrastructure, but our commitment is to deliver for all Canadians. There will be changes as we go forward along the lines of what we talked about that will enable us to get our financial situation in better shape. But we fully intend to, as we go forward, invest in the kind of things that will make us even better with our customers. This is all about achieving better service, not less. I know there's been some comments about, cuts and this. It's not about cuts, although, the company will change. But this is about creating a better experience for Canadians. And we want to connect Canadians, especially at this time with our economy and what's going on south of us. What better than to have a Canadian-owned company delivering to every community in Canada? And because a lot of the couriers don't go to all those communities. And we're proud of that fact, and we look forward to building on that as we go forward.
Thank you. And I'd like to build on that last point there because, I recall conversations in different settings around the importance of Canada Post, particularly to rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. And sometimes really being that lifeline, whether it be, supplies, but life-saving medicine as another example. So how do you foresee you being able to not only maintain, but hopefully even enhance those services given the financial difficulties of late?
Well, thank you. The announcement on the 25th, we welcome those changes. Again, we've been talking about a lot of those changes for some time. Along with other recent investments we've made, the Albert Jackson Processing Center in Scarborough is a leading-edge facility. Our recent update of our ERP system is very strong for us, and again, this whole business is digital behind the scenes. We feel very good that we got all the tools now that we need. We'll be able to be more efficient with CMBs, with some of the post office modernization that we're going to do. And the investments that we've made and the changes that have been made to these legacy policies and regulations will enable us to compete a lot better. The parcel business is hyper competitive, but all of this will contribute towards being a better provider for Canadian business, particularly small businesses. We are overdeveloped with, and we're happy about it, with small businesses across Canada. The labor uncertainty over the last year has been difficult for small businesses. They're half of the GDP in Canada, and a dollar invested with small businesses locally, 66 cents stays in Canada versus international companies. So we want to do much more to support small businesses, work with them, give them the tools, give them the resources they need to grow and thrive.
Thanks. Madame Gaudreau.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Il n'y a pas de souci. J'arrête le chrono. Alors, je recommence. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
On that is the rural moratorium was put in place back in...
I have to interrupt. We're not getting any of the translation, and we want to hear your question. So bear with us 2 seconds.
Crise 3. Peut-être. C'est peut-être le Père Noël qui nous joue.
I apologize. We'll do it again. 6 minutes, Madame Gaudreau.
Madame Gaudreau.
Fonctionne.
So all's working now. I wasn't aware that my question had so much power. It seems to have caused interference. All right, it's a simple question. I have had a chance to go and find the figures. It's wonderful. So how many offices will be closed in Quebec, in the province of Quebec?
I've lost my translation again. But je comprehend votre question. And I'll say that, the plan on post offices is to be very sensitive, very focused on the local issues, the communities. All communities have different needs, different sensitivities. Our plan is to work closely with the local towns, the municipalities. We're going to protect very clearly rural, remote, northern, indigenous communities.
Quand vous parlez de protection, on a reçu le maire de Chute-Saint-Philippe.
When it comes to protection, we had received the mayor of Saint-Philippe. Are we on now? Good, wonderful. So there are municipalities, no? And good. So the mayors are highly concerned in as much as there are offices, and there's, of course, a main office, but sometimes that's up to 30 minutes away. So the question is, where there'll be, very difficult choices to be made. Sometimes there are offices that are nearby, but for others, it's really a transportation issue, isn't it? So what about that? Thank you.
And we can't get into what's in the plan right now because it hasn't been finalized or approved. But again, we'll be very careful to share all the criteria once we're able to in terms of how we're going to go about that. But our first approach will be in areas where we think we're overbuilt or over-serving Canadians, and that is mostly in urban areas where we have a dealer office nearby. So there's some obvious duplication. So that will be our first step, to look at those areas where they have other options nearby. We won't get to the rural areas until after that. So that'll be our first phase. But again, with the rural areas, we're going to be very, very sensitive.
Les gens, en fait, on apprend le 25.
We would learn we learned on the 25th of September that a reform underway, and then, of course, people had to wait, and the document has been provided now to the department, and you're waiting for the minister's response. And when will you get a response? Because if you say the 15th of January, this will be solved, well, when will you get the answer?
We have not been given a date for when the plan we'll get some feedback on the plan. We hope to get that feedback right away, but it's up to the minister and his team. Again, we're going to be very thoughtful about this. We'll share all the criteria once we get to that point. But I grew up in rural Canada, and I've lived in rural Canada. I know how important the post office is in these smaller towns and villages. We think we can offer better service, actually. It'll be different in some ways, but we think we can offer better service in many locations. So we're going to take a thoughtful approach to that, and we'll be sharing all of that once we're able to.
Okay. Et pour ce qui est des emplois,
When it comes to jobs, you've mentioned attrition, but what about layoffs? Because, of course, at some point, you needn't be an economist to know. Thank you.
Taken some measures at the management level to cut back on management over the last couple of years, so both reducing the size and the cost of management. I think in the last year and a half, we've reduced management by 11%. I've reduced the executive team by 20%. But we're going to need to be a leaner organization. Canadians are using us very differently than they did 40 years ago, and we need to adapt to that, and we think we can, and be more responsive to their needs. So we think the positive thing here is we have 16,000 people eligible to retire in the next 5 years, and then another 14,000 in the 5 years after that. We think that'll provide a good way for people to leave the organization if they so choose. And so we're going to try to do everything we can to have minimum impact on our employees and treat them with respect through the process.
Et je veux revenir. Est-ce que vous l'avez...
Did you listen to the testimony provided by Normand Saint-Amour, the mayor of Saint-Philippe? Because he was saying that there, will be collateral, in as much as the areas have to be upkept, the snow removed, and it is there town or city workers who have to do this. And if you've got 16,000 people retiring and you want to ensure accessibility, of course, the Union of Municipalities in the province of Quebec, even though you say you're working closely with them, that's not what they're saying. They say they are concerned and they do want to be consulted. They don't want a one-size-fits-all approach.
Consulted. We haven't started that process yet because we're still waiting for the feedback from the minister's office on the plan. But the minute we do, we will start our consultations. And whether it's with community mailboxes or with post offices, we know both of those are highly, highly sensitive for people. We're not going to run roughshod over the country. We're going to do it thoughtfully and with some clear criteria that people will be able to look at and understand, and the municipalities in advance will understand how we're approaching this.
Thanks. We may have to reboot our translation console. Could be any moment. I'll just interrupt. We'll have to suspend for 2 or 3 minutes to do that, but just a heads up, everyone. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the witnesses. But before we get into dollars and deficits, I wanted to talk about the people that are really impacted by the bumps in the road with Canada Post. In my riding, small businesses obviously rely on those checks arriving by mail, and when those envelopes don't show up, it's not just an inconvenience. It's like, how do you pay payroll? How do you pay your suppliers? And how do you keep the doors open for the next week? And of course, charities. I've heard a lot from charities, the same boat. Their donations come through the mail, and often, $20 from a senior who gives faithfully every year. And so when deliveries would stop, those gifts don't arrive. And the programs people count on get cut. So even that simple act of sending a thank you note or a Christmas letter becomes very difficult. So we know that when Canada Post falters, those groups lose income, they lose supporters, and they lose connection. And the cost is enormous, and Canadians notice it immediately. So I guess my questions are surrounding the idea of how did we get here? Like, it wasn't sudden. We had a lot of warnings, include the Kaplan report, which made it very clear that Canada Post couldn't remain self-sustaining without real reforms. And yet the Liberals went for 5 years without approving a strategic plan. 5 years of drift, basically, while losses were piling up. I think we're at $5.5 billion now. So, I mean, maybe you can't answer this question, but why do you think the government failed to approve a strategic plan since 2019?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a question better put to the government. But I'll say that we couldn't get aligned is the answer, and it's the same answer I gave a year and a half ago. But I'm pleased that we have alignment at this stage, at least in a strategic sense. And again, we welcome the changes. Those are, in my opinion, exactly what the doctor ordered for us to transform this company, get our house in order, get our finances in order. I wish it would have happened 10 years ago. It didn't. But we're going to move forward with those. We're delighted with those changes, and we hope they get approved. But not only that, with the investments we've made over the years with Albert Jackson, with the ERP program, we can come out of this and rebuild even better than what we would have otherwise.
So that's a bit, my next question is, what impact did that 5-year delay have on your ability to modernize and compete and prevent exactly this crisis that we're in right now?
Yeah, well, certainly we had to be more careful with our spending. There's no question. And in the last few years, we've put in strict budget controls, discretionary spending cuts. As I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, some restructuring of management and so on to get our costs in line with what we can afford. But we're in a very competitive category with some, again, as I said, some of the best operations in the world who are very agile. They're gig-based, some of them, so it's a different model than ours. But we need to compete. We need to be able to invest in our business so we can stay current with them. But I feel like with those changes that were announced and those investments, we have the tools we need now to go forward and transform, and we're ready to do that.
Had you been able to do this 5 years ago, what could we have avoided?
Well, that's hard to predict, but yeah, there were certainly some losses that occurred over the years. There's no doubt about it. I'm just very pleased that we're able to look forward, solve the problem. We're ready to solve that problem. We know how to solve that problem. There'll be things that we all disagree on and components and so on, but these are things that we need to get at now, and we're ready to do that.
So in the plan that you submitted to the minister, does Canada Post actually become financially sustainable, and on what timetable? Yeah.
Yes, it's an ambitious plan, and we've shaped it around the minister's announcement on the 25th of September, as well as our knowledge of the industry and so on. And it gets us to break even by 2030, 5 years from now. And it'll be...
Paying anything back or not yet?
We haven't yet, but these are repayable loans.
So,
yes.
But with your 2030 timeline, will anything have been paid back yet?
I
saw some shaking heads, so I'm
yeah,
assuming it's a no.
We're going to need to invest in the company over the next few years in order to do the things that we need to do to make the changes that are going to reduce our costs, going to give us a more competitive position in the marketplace vis-a-vis our competitors. And so there's going to have to be some investment over time. And the minister made it clear these bailouts or injections have to stop. And by the way, I 100% agree with that. They need to stop as soon as possible. But
your interest rates are, like you were talking about.
I'm afraid that is our time.
Sorry.
We are going to suspend right now for a couple moments to reboot our system. So I apologize. We're suspended. minutes.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I'm going to ask questions that come from my writing, actually. The first one is interlibrary loans, and we know they're an essential part of how libraries in Canada operate. They are, and they rely on Canada Post, and so they're very concerned, as you know, about increasing postal rates without Governor and Council approval. That will be removed. That you'll have the ability to increase rates, and so. Your comments on that, as we know, they rely very much on Canada Post to ship books across the country.
And that's something we're proud to have provided for many, many years. These are important policies for us that we will continue to honor without question. There is no question. We have no plans and no interest. And it would be against the needs for education, for inclusion, for fairness, against our basic values to not have those programs, whether it be with libraries, public libraries, where they get reduced rates on postage, or whether it's providing free materials to the blind, CNIB, and so on. So we saw that media coverage. We have no interest. We will, period, we will continue to support those programs, and very proud to do it for a lot of reasons.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Equally, we've had several witnesses, and you spoke about the accommodation delivery program, but we've had several witnesses, Mr. Edinger, that have come forward, and people like, as Mme. Gaudreau mentioned, mayors who are unaware of the service. And so I've been going around in my riding, because I have a very rural riding, telling seniors who are concerned about, the community mailboxes, they don't have to worry because there is going to be an accommodation program. But when I look at the program, I see it as being narrow. And so I'm wondering, how are you going to ensure that it's there to serve seniors and other populations? And how are you going to ramp it up for, the increased...
A great question, an important question. And we're very... sensitive to that. We've had the accommodation program for many, many years now, so we have some experience with it. But it is critical, not only for seniors, but for folks with functional limitations. So we do a lot of things in terms of providing braille trays in the community mailboxes, providing sliding trays in them, different heights, and we can do door-to-door delivery for folks that just simply can't get out to the community mailbox, which is very valid. It is actually an easy program to apply for, but we got to do a better job on that. I think we need to do a much better job promoting it to Canadians, and we're committed to that. It's also free, and we will provide white glove treatment on that, and we'll make sure we promote that properly, and you have my commitment to do that. And if we have to support folks that need the support on this, and we intend to do so.
You keep your word on that, because if I have a complaint, I'm going to direct them to you. I expect that there will be people who will apply for the especially the house delivery. Yes, okay. With Christmas approaching, another comment I received from some of my citizens in my riding are they're concerned about mailing right now, given the experience from last year. We know that there's a settlement that's being negotiated. What's holding us back, given the importance of this period for so many people that want to ship things to their loved ones? What's holding us back from confirming and moving forward?
Well, we're working. I can't get into the details. We've agreed with our CUPW union that we would not release any details, but we've signed agreements in principle for both the urban and rural mail carriers and sortation folks. We're at the table as we speak, working on all the legal wording in a tentative agreement that we hope to sign right away. But I would say we're open for business. We're able to handle the business right now. Our performance levels are in the high 90s. We're able to do it safely and effectively. Let me just say, I mean, this might not sound right, but I'm mailing Christmas cards. I love doing that every year. And gifts to family in Nova Scotia, in my case. I have confidence in the system right now. I mean, it's easy for me to say, but we're there. We're strong. Everybody's at work. There is no reason why your parcel or letter won't get through between now and Christmas.
I'm out of time, yeah.
Thanks very much. Madame Gaudreau, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In 1995, the German Postal Service began being privatized, as you know, and the government decided to transfer the parcel operations to DHL. At present, the German Postal Service no longer exists because it wasn't breaking even. So this really was turning it over to the private market and DHL, and it's pretty much a monopoly. And there are regulations covering it. But I have a concern that little by little we will just let Canada Post die a slow and quiet death, and that large players like Intercom and others will take over. Otherwise, why would we be abandoning parcel delivery?
Thank you for that question. A very good question again. We have no intention of privatizing Canada Post, none. In terms of the 45-day plan that was submitted to the minister, there is no plan for privatization. There is a plan to transform Canada Post to essentially adjust to the needs of today's consumers and customers who we value very much. We're not changing just for the fun of it, and it's not fun. We're changing because our customers are telling us they're using the post office very differently than they did back in the 1980s and 90s. But that little thing called the internet came along, and so now people use it differently. I know the story of Deutsche Post and DHL quite well, and as well Royal Mail. We have no intention of going down that route. We're really trying to, as I said earlier, make Canada Post actually a preferred provider to Canadian business, small business, who we really need to do a better job with and help them thrive and grow.
Est-ce que j'ai bien compris ou les colis ne...
Have I understood correctly that parcels will, in this reform, will no longer be delivered directly to domicile? Is that what this is about?
Sorry, I lost the last
Oui,
part of that.
les colis, domicile.
So parcels are currently being delivered directly to homes, but now people would have to go to the main office to get their parcels.
C'est pour ça, je vais prendre juste le temps. Désolé.
So I just want to take a moment. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but look, so someone who would need to drive 30 minutes to get their package, but could, alternatively just go on the internet and push one button to get it from another competitor directly at their door, how can you remain profitable and compete? That doesn't look like a proper approach.
The community mailboxes aren't perfect, but they're a very strong way to deliver parcels. And many people may not realize the community mailboxes are more like a parcel locker. I think some of us have the vision that it's just for letters, but 90% of the parcels that come through our system can go through a community mailbox. And they're not for every location, they're not for every village or town, but they're safe, they're secure, it reduces GHG emissions.
Énorme.
Yeah, oui. Avec le parcel locker.
Yeah, it's a parcel locker, basically.
Injuries for us is still a big problem, and we've cut back on them by about 50%, but community mailboxes can do an even better job with our employees, which we want to keep them safe.
Merci pour le temps supplémentaire, Monsieur le Président. J'apprécie vraiment.
Thank you for the extra time, Mr. Chair. I truly appreciate my Christmas present.
Mr. Patzer, please.
Thank you very much.
Merci à tout le monde de votre présence. J'aimerais savoir quelle est votre définition de rural utilisée par Post Canada. Pour l'instant, c'est celle qui est en place depuis 1994. Donc, nous suivons les lignes directrices du gouvernement dans ce domaine. Je sais qu'il y a d'autres programmes qui essayent
of rural versus urban, and in our plan, we will look to reflect the latest information from Stats Canada, because the country In 1994, I think we had 29 million people. Now we have 42. Small towns have become cities and so on. Rural areas have become suburban. So we'll want to, there's a lot of areas where it was designated rural back in that time, and now it's very much suburban, almost urban. And we have some duplication with our dealer network and with our corporate stores, and those are areas that we would look at carefully to see where we could reduce some duplication.
Okay, when you go through your rural review, I'm also just going to give you just a couple quick examples. The town of Vanguard, I mean, it's a town of a couple hundred people at the most, but they rely on you guys every single week to send water samples off to Regina for safe water supply. They don't have another carrier as an option. But I mean, that's because it is a very small town, but that's common all throughout Saskatchewan and, quite frankly, a lot of Western Canada to have towns that size. I guess what measures are you going through to make sure that a place like Vanguard doesn't lose its post office, because it really is a lifeline for that community?
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Again, I've lived most of my life in rural Canada. I understand how important the post offices are. So we're going to be very thoughtful and careful how we do that. If there is no other post office, close, then it'll be fine. But and there'll be other criteria, and we'll reveal that when we have further feedback from the government on the plan. But we recognize that how important they are to those communities, and we'll be thoughtful about how we make those decisions.
If you could give a brief answer, though, with the moratorium still in place, I believe there was 515 closures of rural post offices, though, since then. How could that be?
Well, there's different reasons. Oftentimes the postmaster or the postmistress retires and it's hard to recruit somebody to replace them, or the business that they were in shuts down, or people move on to other things. And it's not the easiest role to recruit for, unfortunately, particularly in remote areas. But again, we've said that in terms of postal service, we're going to protect rural, remote, northern. We have 280 flights, air cargo flights, going every week to 140 communities in Canada's north. So we're committed to protecting that service.
So with the $1 billion bailout that you guys received, and I know there's ongoing conversations about another compensation package, I think, from the government, was there a provision in there that prevented executive bonuses above and beyond? Was there a provision in that contract, or when you guys got the bailout?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And is that something that the government is actively trying to put into a new bailout package?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay, and then we've heard a lot of people receiving early retirement offers from the government, whether it's staffers on Parliament Hill, whether it's bureaucrats. I'm just wondering, has Canada Post also received these early retirement offers from the federal government?
No. We're a Crown corporation. We're separate from that. We sometimes take guidance from what they're doing in terms of key policies, but that has not included us in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you very much. When it comes to just really quickly, there's one last point I wanted to ask you about, and that was the Kaplan report was pretty firm in its point about the quote they had was, the notion that the January 2025 $1 billion plus loan lifeline will be repaid requires the complete suspension of disbelief. That's the end of the quote. So, I mean, you've hinted today that you're still trying to repay that loan. What's your thoughts on what the Kaplan report had to say?
Just, I apologize, a very brief answer if you can.
Okay. The Kaplan report, our union and us had equal access. It was a public hearing. And you might want to listen to that at some point. We put all of our ideas out there, as did the union. I think the report captured that pretty well. And it's I think, an objective and frank review of our challenges, our obstacles, and our opportunities going forward. We're pleased that the government supported that, and I think Commissioner Kaplan came up with a very fair review, and we're pleased with that. As far as the repayable loan, that's how we're treating it right now. That's how we're going forward.
Thanks. Ms. Khalidi, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. I'll start off by picking up on some items that you've said, Mr. Ettinger. You said that the financial situation of Canada Post is unacceptable, that we need to act now. The challenge, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I mean, there are tens of thousands of people that rely on Canada Post for jobs. There are millions of Canadians that rely on the services that Canada Post provides. When did your organization first realize that there was an issue here, that your business model was not working?
Well, I think if you go back in time, and some of the members around the table were here at that time, we've been studied to death over the years, in a good way. If you go back to 2016, a lot of the findings from that and the predictions of that have unfortunately come true in terms of where we are. COVID also accelerated the problem in the sense that a lot of upstart, emerging, private shippers came out of the woodwork and have done a good job. They're gig-based, which we don't support. We support good-paying union jobs with good benefits and good pay. But they have stolen, and they've got good programs to take a lot of market share away from us. So the key thing for me is that we're moving forward. Would it have helped if it had been years ago? Of course. But now we have a government that's taking this seriously. They're acting on it. We're ready to act on it now. We know what the key strategies are. And even though you've heard them before, like community mail, there's nothing sort of new in this. There's no magic potion that's going to get us to the next place. But trust me, these are big opportunities for us. We're ready to move on them now, and we got the team ready to roll. So, CMBs can provide an even better service, but the savings opportunity there, for example, is $300, $400, $500 million a year once it's at full state. So when you add on the other things that are in the plan, you can see how there's a path to break even. It's an ambitious path, but by 2030, we want to be there. And we think we have the tools now that we can do that.
Thank you. It's interesting that you say that this issue has been studied since 2016 and it's been studied to death, by your words. And yet it seems as if none of the recommendations that committees and Parliament have provided to you have been implemented. So by your admission, since 2016, we knew that there's an issue. It's now at least 9 years later. You've watched other companies grow. You've watched other companies take up space, be innovative, and provide the services that Canadians are looking for. Yes, there are challenges, and I 100% agree with you that the gig workers are not treated properly in those private companies, and that is a place where we need to focus, we need to work on. But at the same time, they are providing the services to millions of Canadians. So as a Crown corporation, hands off from the federal government, you kind of function in your own space. You watched for a decade this transition happening. Why are we here?
Yeah, well, we've been doing a lot, as much as we can do within our control. And we've made some strategic investments. For example, the Albert Jackson Processing Center in Scarborough, a state-of-the-art facility that has enabled us to achieve the highest on-time delivery results in our history. That's one example. And I could go on for quite a while, but I'm keeping my answers tight here. Our updated ERP system, pricing and analytics are critical in this industry. You're pricing based on lanes and origin and destination. It's very complex. You need the right systems to do that. So we've updated our systems. So now that we have the tools, and thanks to the government taking this seriously and getting some of the shackles off us that have been there for a long time, we feel unleashed in a good way in our ability to take these tools, and these investments and to turn this company in the right direction for the good of Canada. We know the economy depends upon it. There's no one else that gets to all points in Canada the way we do. We can continue to do that. But the things that we've talked about, even though there's more detail in the plan, are going to get us to that point. And we're confident we can get there.
I appreciate that. So how do you engage with your stakeholders, with your employees, and with the people that receive your services? How do you engage with them so that they know what's going on with Canada Post, so that they know that their jobs are secure, they know that they're still going to be receiving mail, and they know who to contact when there are challenges, who to contact when there are issues that they want to bring to your attention?
Let me interrupt. We are past our time. If you could offer, if you're able to offer a brief.
Maybe I'm not, but yes, I'll do my best. Thank you. Well, we have a full team, a full sales team. We have customer care team. We have a corporate communications team. I get hundreds of emails every day, and we respond to every single one of them, so we understand the issues that Canadians are having. So we have our finger on the pulse in that regard. Again, I believe we now have the tools that we can go forward and get this back to what our original mandate was. Serve all Canadians in a financial, sustainable fashion. I believe we can get there.
Thanks. Mrs. Block, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I will be splitting my time with my colleague, Ms. Jansen. So when it comes to loans and supports which come from the government, whether it's to a Crown corporation like yourself, companies, or even looking at what can happen within departments who need to come back to the government for more funding, can you tell us if under the previous loan or any future loans, are there conditions or provisions to ensure that the money that is being given to Canada Post can't be used to pay executive compensation or management bonuses?
Yes, and that question came earlier. I'm not aware of that, but I'll ask our CFO if there's any inclusion of those kind of terms in the loan agreement.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for the question. It's a really good one. So when the terms of the MOU were negotiated with the Department of Finance as well as with PSPC, the focus was really to ensure that Canada Post has access to that funding to supplement and maintain our operation, to supplement our operating loss. The covenants really around that MOU is to ensure that we provide the proper evidence and supporting evidence to the Department of Finance and PSPC of what that money is going for, and it's really around funding our operating losses and ensure that we can continue meeting the service to Canadians every day across this great country, and there's no covenants in there tied to executive compensation.
So would there be restrictions written into those covenants that would keep Canada Post from being able to provide bonuses?
There are no restrictions in the MOU pertaining to that particular subject, no.
Okay,
it's really around ensuring that we can maintain operation and service Canadians.
Thank you.
Again, thank you. And I want to come back to the people that, who really feel the consequences of the problem that we're facing here, because when mail slows down or stops, rural Canadians are hit the hardest. Many rely on prescription deliveries, government documents, benefit checks, essential goods that simply cannot be accessed any other way. So in some communities, the post office isn't just a building, it's like the center of life. And it's where seniors stay connected, small businesses ship their products, families keep traditions alive through birthday cards and Christmas presents. So again, I'm left wondering, like, how did we let it get this far? I mean, the warnings were not subtle. The Kaplan report laid it out exactly why keeping Canada Post afloat without structural changes would be nearly impossible. And yet, the Liberal government shackled you until the corporation was effectively insolvent. Now, you've had like $5.5 billion in losses. How have you been financing that? Did you have it in the kitty, or like who are you borrowing that from?
Well, we had a surplus that we were running with, so that helped quite a bit. But I'll come back to the Kaplan report. The Kaplan report, again, was a public hearing, and I thought the recommendations from that were very clear, very strong, and we're pleased the government has picked up on those recommendations and has endorsed them going forward. So we're ready to act on those, assuming the plan gets approved.
Okay, so you said that you were working with a surplus. So the $5.5 billion, that was covered by the surplus completely?
No, that's...
How much of a surplus were you working with?
I don't recall, but, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Thank you for the question. What Doug was referring to is the healthy cash and cash liquidity balance that we had on our balance sheet. At one point, we were a little bit over $2 billion in that particular account that we used to fund and supplement the operating losses over the years.
Okay, so how are you financing this all then?
Until, I want to say, mid of 2025, we were using our cash reserves. And so with the repayment of the $500 million bonds that was due in July 2025, that was kind of the first trigger that we would be really, I want to say, quote unquote, running out of cash. And those were the discussions coming out of the Kaplan report that we had with the government to ensure that we secured the $1 billion for us to continue maintaining. So up until, I want to say, July 2025, we were using our cash reserves to fund the operating losses that we had.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thanks very much, Mr. Gasparo. Then we'll finish up with Madame Gaudreau.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. I just want to pick up on something that was mentioned earlier in terms of addressing seniors. In my riding of Eglinton Lawrence, we have quite a few seniors centers. Many of them English or French is not their first language. And this actually may be relevant in other parts of the country. How will you be communicating some of these changes more broadly to folks where English and French isn't their first language? That's question one. Hold on a second.
Yep.
Second is how will you try to address some of their concerns? Like how will the communication flow go back and forth with some of these individuals, particularly seniors in this case?
So, great question. We'll have a full communications program, as I touched on earlier. We're going to do a strong job of promoting it, how to access it, how to apply. It's easy, but we know we have to be thoughtful about how we do that. So we'll make sure that we promote it so that everyone knows how to access the program, whether it's online or whether we have to do something by mail or whatnot. In terms of other languages, we'll be more than happy to look at whatever languages are required. We've done that in other situations with money transfer type programs through our post offices. We do them in multi-languages. We, of course, have that capability. So whatever the needs are, we will make sure that gets done and we'll do it properly. So there'll be no limitation on how we communicate that to Canadians.
And I'm making the assumption you'll take a data-based approach. You'll make sure that folks, you'll look at the census data, you'll look at on a constituency basis, the different languages, obviously both official languages plus.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look at that, and we have, again, some experience with that in other programs. So we'll make sure that we cover all those languages. We understand that can be uncomfortable for people, so we'll make sure that they can have service in the language that they're most comfortable with.
Great. Basic question for you. What do you think Canada Post's role is in the 21st century?
Well, again, it's back to a digital post office, and many of the things we're doing now behind the scenes are all digital. Every day we're looking at new ways to make it easier to buy something on your phone and track it on your phone and find out when it's being delivered. We have a service that we haven't promoted that much yet. It's called My Mail, whereby if a parcel lands in your community mailbox, it can send you a notification to let you know that it's there and what it is. And you have to go on the Canada Post app to get access to that, and we have millions of Canadians on that. So there's things like that we're working on constantly. But the future, e-commerce has a very promising growth future, as I said, doubling over the next 10 years. So the pie is going to get bigger. The competition is also very, very strong. Again, some of the best companies in the world, so it won't be easy. But we're going to work hard to earn back the trust of our consumers and our customers, and we believe we now have the tools to do that. But we see a digital future, but we have to get our core business in line first. We have to get our kitchen in order with all the things that we've been talking about that have now the government has taken seriously and has said we're going to take those legacy regulations and policies away, which will enable us to be a much more efficient operation going forward.
Great. Thank you, Chair.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai simplement une question parce que il n'y a pas une semaine que je reçois pas soit des messages, des appels.
I have a simple question, Mr. Chair. Every week I get calls, messages going back to the 25th of September, likely because I am a member of this committee. Most of them tell me they're worried about access. They talk to me about cuts, about links to the board of directors, and the external members and the extra extravagant pay to management and so on. So I am very worried about the general health of the workplace, and I'm wondering what employees can be told, because changes, of course, are better to do them, bring them in bit by bit. No one likes changes. That being said, a change is necessary and has been for a long time. So what shall we tell them? They're very worried.
A lot of questions packed into that one, but we will, as soon as we can share the plan, we will go to our employees immediately. We have town halls constantly with employees, and we'll make sure that our frontline supervisors are communicating to our employees and our unions, of course. Anything to do with people changes, we'll be collaborating with our union to make sure we're all aligned on those changes. So we look forward to that. But again, the approach on this, and I know we're committed to service enhancements. It's not about cutting, although we're going to look different going forward. There's no doubt we have to. But we're looking to be thoughtful, respectful, flexible, and we're going to listen to the municipalities, the towns, the villages. We're going to listen to them and be flexible in terms of what they need. And really what we're trying to create here is a Canada Post for the future that has better service and has the support of the business community in Canada, small business in particular. There's a great example of Shopify. It started out very small years ago, and Canada Post was there to support them, and they've done so well across the world. So we need more Shopifys in Canada, and small business will be where that comes from. We're going to do even more in terms of our relationships with small business going forward. That's a big priority.
Merci à vous.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us today. I just have a quick question before we send you on your way. Mr. Pastor brought up the issue, and it's been brought up several times, about the urban-rural issue. Stuff in 1994 that was declared rural, of course, is now smack dab in the middle of big cities. What's going to take to change or to address that? Does it require legislative change? Does it require an order from the government? Or is that something that you can change arbitrarily? Because it sounds like it's a common sense thing to do immediately.
It is a common sense thing to do because the country has changed a lot. We have been discussing it with the government. We're going to take their guidance on it, but there are there's new information from Stats Canada.
But can you make that decision yourself, or does it require the government to make a change to allow you to?
As far as I know, Mr. Chair, we can move forward with our own decisions, but again, we'll be very careful on that. And as I said, it'll be more, the first phase will be the urban areas where there's obvious duplication, where you can literally see a dealer and a corporate in one frame.
Or the issue of, the example of Gatineau comes up is considered rural. So I hope that does get addressed soon, because keeps coming up. Thank you for being with us. Before you go, I just want to mention you have a Donald Cooper, who's our Alberta-based manager for government affairs. He's always an incredible help, so I wanted to pass that on. Colleagues, we have in our translation booth Andre, who's finishing up his tenure with us. He's been with us, no, don't clap yet. He's been with us since 1971. He has served 17 different parliaments. So congratulations, Andre. Absolutely spectacular. Colleagues, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, before you adjourn, there is something I would like to just, I don't know if it's a point of order, but are you ready to adjourn? Okay. I wanted to touch on the previous meeting we had at this committee regarding my privilege motion. I think I had asked you if we needed to report privilege to the House. After inviting the officials back and confirming that Mr. Jennings has reflected and noted that the only thing that was true from his first appearance was that Stellantis had agreed to what I said had proposed. I'm not quite frankly satisfied that we have brought this issue to an end, and I just want to reserve the right to bring this back.
Certainly, I appreciate that, and I will commit to you. I'm going to read the blues, and I'm going to review the video as well, and that's something we can address when we come back in January. I want to thank everyone, wish everyone a wonderful Christmas, all of our support staff who are with us today, all of our members, all of our team, a very Merry Christmas. Those watching at home, I hope you'll tune in later to an OGGO Christmas Carol where the chair is visited by the estimates of past, present, and future. Have a fantastic Christmas, everyone. A wonderful New Year. Thank you. We are adjourned.